James A. Corry is a lonely man, living in a small shack in the middle of a vast desert. He passes the time assembling antique cars and complaining about the heat. Did I mention he's a convicted murderer and spends his life sentence marooned on an asteroid far from Earth? He has a whole world to himself. Corry is a man without hope for escape. His only news from Earth comes from 3 messengers who bring him supplies now and then. It's not quite Amazon, but the subscription boxes are epic. In one of these boxes come not freedom, but a sort of salvation for James Corry. But what of the price? This is an episode written by Serling and directed by Jack Smite. As always, the alternative theories mentioned within may cause anxiety, rage, and disbelief, but that's why you're here, I hope. And kindly consider leaving a like, share, or subscribe if you enjoy this video. Let's take a look into an alternate universe where automobiles are giant puzzle pieces, the challenges of interstellar supply chains solved, and where new ideas in prison management are to be seen. Then there's a lonely man, very lonely. As Serling explains in his opening narration, James A. Corry is serving a life sentence alone on an asteroid 9 million miles from Earth. He's alone, his soul, his sanity slipping away like the sweat from his brow. He keeps himself busy by putting together an antique car and creating board games. His only link to Earth is a supply ship that visits every few months. Allenby, Corry's favorite delivery man, is the only source of news from Earth. Corry pleads his innocence and begs for a pardon. After 4 years, the loneliness has gotten to him. All he wants is his pardon. Along with supplies like food, beer, and paperback books, Allenby leaves behind a big crate. He's coy to his crew about what was inside. Allenby teases with a dour tone. Did he leave behind hope or a curse? Corry opens the crate and reads what's inside most boxes, an instruction manual. Congratulations, it's a woman, a robot woman, and written in the instruction manual as a creature. Her name is Alicia, and it comes to life. As Alicia tries to get acquainted with the last man in the world, Corry experiences his own uncanny valley. He questions Alicia's existence and accuses her of mocking his own. But Corry realizes he had hurt Alicia and discovers his robot can demonstrate emotion through the power of simulated tears. Corry soon sees Alicia as a companion and finds himself in love with her, because in return she had soothed his loneliness. 11 months goes by. Corry and Alicia spend their nights looking into the stars. Earth is far away, but that matters little now. Corry points out a supply ship is on its way, but there is no hurry to return to the shack. The next day, when the supply ship arrives, Allenby rushes to Corry with news. Corry has been pardoned. He's allowed to return home, live as a free man, and rejoin humanity. Corry is in disbelief. Allenby goes on. He has other prisoners picked up from their own asteroids on board. There is a seat for just one more. Corry is exuberant and shares to Allenby he's ready to go. There's just one problem. He wants to bring Alicia with him.
Oh no!
Allenby shows regret from his previous generosity and tells Corry there is only room for one. Corry and Allenby argue. Corry fully believes Alicia is a woman and leaving her behind is murder. He scrambles to find her, sitting under the hot sun. With Allenby and his 2 crew there, Corry pleads with Alicia to show the others she's real. She stands silent. Captain Allenby must think fast if he wants to return to Earth. With 2 passengers in one seat, Allenby shoots the robot in the face. Problem solved. With the robot lying on the ground, its mechanisms exposed where there was a face, Corry wakes up from his delusion. There is nothing for him now. He's ready to return to humanity, of which kind was shown to him here. Human-looking robots, or androids, mimicking emotions has been part of science fiction for decades. Putting aside synthetic empathy, there are even more examples within television, film, and pop culture. Unlike later generations of the genre, the lonely doesn't ask, "What is it to be human?" Instead, the story is told through dialogue and narration through the eyes of Corry before Allenby steps in. Maybe because there wasn't enough time, There is no debate whether Alicia represented artificial life, or how the treatment of idols made in our image reflects our humanity. Perhaps it did. One thing that I found curious was Alicia's deer-in-the-headlights look when asked to prove her sentience to Allenby. I think this was the confrontation a fan of science fiction would have loved to see. Instead, she's speechless, helpless, and I say lost, by the weird fact she's sitting out alone under the sun. My fan fiction reach, we were seeing the limitations from a robot companion. She was unable to do or say much. Think on her feet, go defensive, show curiosity or defiance was not part of the feature set. That would have been extra. What we, the viewers, saw in Alicia when alone with Corry was through his eyes. Everything she did for or said to Corry had its importance amplified. When someone else, less biased, comes along, she's shown as the mimic she was. I realize this contradicts the instruction manual that boasts otherwise for the product. Who knows? Maybe it was just good marketing. I think the episode was more about how we humans are easily appeased when emotionally distraught, feeling lonely for example. Therefore, the episode was very human-centric, our moral and genetic high ground unquestioned. Allenby was pretty much a straight shooter and bluntly showed there is no debate. It's time for Corry to let go of his emotional crutch, leave his robot, and return home. Speaking of robot,
you are now the proud possessor of a robot.
A robot? Corry, she's a robot. Now you're gonna have to leave that robot behind.
She's not a robot! She's not a robot!
the episode adhered what was then the adopted pronunciation of the word, created in 1922, from the Czech word robota, meaning forced labor, and in many Slavic languages, rob, as in robot, means slave. If we presume Alicia the robot represented the word literally as originated in the Slavic languages, casually putting her to obsolescence makes a bitter metaphor. Let's look at some oddities. Another subtle theme in The Lonely is the relativity of time. When Corry has visitors, time is measured in minutes, but when alone, he speaks about months or years. Even with Alicia activated, he speaks about the 11 months together. Corry is in no rush to meet his guests when he sees the supply ship in the night skies. This is a hint how time is relative when sitting next to a pretty girl. It also may be a very subliminal clue that Corry is just as alone as he was in the beginning of the episode. While The Lonely is not about dystopia, it is set in a dystopian universe. The society on Earth, with the means of interstellar space travel, made priority to exile prisoners to their very own world, likely at great cost. This didn't apply just to the convicted murderers as implied by Adams. Allenby mentions discord on Earth, as he and his crew spent 8 months out of 12 in space. In the 4 years Corry's been away, he seems surprised at the leap of technology. Is this a clue how fast society at home is changing? Or an example of time dilation, as Corry, Allenby, and crew are away from Earth for months, years, or decades as technological leaps are occurring on Earth? Have you noticed Alicia continues to address James by his last name?
Corry.
This is particularly interesting. My conspiratorial mind has me believe this is a very subtle way to put some emotional distance between man and his machine. Perhaps to relieve some concerns with advertisers, they wanted some speculation off the table. Sure, Corry confessed he loved Alicia, but it's more like how we may love our coffee machine. It makes our life better, yeah, but it's still an appliance. Turn on, turn off. Now for some alternative theories. Are there any biblical references in The Lonely? Angel is derived from the Greek word messenger, and may make their appearance using fantastic flying vehicles. Allenby is someone who comes from the heavens to bring news to Corry. He also bears gifts and shares directives from a higher power. Allenby's fellow angels of lower rank make their disdain having their feet touch ground. If you still have doubts, listen to how Allenby chooses his words when describing his gift to Corry.
Maybe it's just an illusion. Maybe it's salvation.
When Allenby returns, he brings the gospel, a word derived from Greek and Latin meaning good news, when he tells Corry he's been pardoned and may return to Earth. The angel Allenby will lift Corry back into the heavens. The Lonely is a solid episode. Its appeal comes from questions it didn't ask. Where did Alicia come from? Is she common on Earth? Are there others that look like her? Would Corry return and buy another model? Were her emotions real? Or were they pre-programmed mechanical reflexes that mimic, that mocks we humans? This was the direction the episode was shy. If you read The Twilight Zone Companion, written by Mark Scott Zicree, you'll find the episode was filmed in Death Valley under 140-degree heat. It certainly captured the desire of not wanting to be there and get out. I give The Lonely 3 dimensions out of 5. It does have a couple tropes, tag them isolation and human mimics. This is Mr. G of Synergy leaving you with these final words. The heavier your high-tech appliance weighs, the faster it goes obsolete, especially if it's over 15 pounds. Never more true than in the Twilight Zone. Check out other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching.